Hello, YouTube. How's everyone doing? It's the professional. I hope that you guys are all having a great day today. So we are continuing the next part of Ace Attorney here, and I'm sorry I hadn't put a part up in like 4 days. I just had a massive trip back home. It's a 20-hour drive, and it was just made me exhausted, and I just didn't have the energy to record last night. But we're continuing where we left off, so we're doing that case, the concert, murder, Mr. LeTousse's murder, and we're defending Machi, the piano player who has been accused of the murder, and we're going to the trial here. If you enjoyed this series, do drop a like. This is a very underrated game, a lot of fun. So let's start it here. July 9, 10 a.m. District Court, courtroom number 3. Court is now in session for how do I say that? Machi Tobe, Your Honor, the pixie of the arpeggio. Right, his trial. Court is in session. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is A-OK, Her Judge. Very well, Prosecutor Gavin. My opening statement, yeah? No, actually, there was something else I wanted to ask you about. Yes? Say you're going to visit someone in the hospital with an incurable disease. What do you say to them? A. I mean, you wouldn't say get well soon, right? You'd only be kicking them when they're down. What are you talking about? Actually, I'm going to visit someone who's terminally ill. Right after this trial, the Chief Justice's son. The Chief Justice? His son is afflicted with a most terrible disease. He doesn't have long, it seems. So I thought I'd go pay him a visit. I thought saying something moving might be the order of the day. Yeah, you would start a trial like this. Why don't grown-ups ever just, say what's on their mind instead of pretending? She's looking at me with something like disgust. Hey, what are you looking at me like that for? In any case, I'm a bit busy today, so let's wrap this up quickly. Prosecutor Gavin, your opening statement, briefly. You're in luck, Her Judge. I believe you'll be going on your hospital visit sooner than you think. First, to review the victim in this case. Romain LeTousse, age 35. The global manager for Diva Stongstress Lameroy. The cause of death, blood loss due to being shot by a large caliber revolver, yes. This report has all the details. The court accepts this into evidence. LeTousse's autopsy report added to the court record. Death due to loss of blood from a gunshot wound. Estimated time of death 9 to 9:30 p.m. 45 caliber, that's quite large, isn't it? Let's see here. Romain LeTousse, 35. Time of death, July 7 between 9 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. Cause of death, blood loss due to 45 caliber bullet wound. Time elapsed between shooting death and currently under review. Okay. Okay, a direct hit from that could knock a man off his feet. Well, any bullet really can, but yes, a 45 is a very strong round. However, the bullet struck him in his shoulder. The damage to the body was slight. Death was not immediate. Sadly, his blood loss was such that he could not be saved. I suppose the victim's condition could have been much worse considering. Victim shot in shoulder in Lameroy's room. 2 shots were fired. Let's look at that picture. I wonder what he tried to write there. He tried to write something, but it would look like it was scribbled out. One shot missed, the other penetrated and passed through the victim's shoulder. Both bullets were found on the wall of the scene. Observe the diagram. Hang on a second. Okay. This is where the bullets hit. So that means the killer had to have been behind him? That doesn't give the killer much space. I see the court accept this evidence. How did the killer miss if they were that close? Diagram added to the court record. If we're talking about a 45 caliber revolver, let's see here. What if the shots actually came from outside the room? That's entirely possible. A 45 would definitely penetrate a wall like that, no problem. We must assume that the killer was adept at the weapon's use. Well, they missed one shot at really close range. Really? Yeah, apparently weapons that size have a powerful kickback. If, say, the judge tried to fire one, it'd break every bone in his body. The defense will take more care in choosing examples. As I was saying, the victim was shot backstage in a dressing room. This dressing room has only one entrance, this door. That does seem to be the case, yes. However, there were witnesses who heard the gunshots. He's talking about you and Emma, huh? Yet, when the witnesses entered the room, it was empty, save for the victim's body, of course. But that's impossible. Exactly. This murder was impossible. For all but one person. One person. That is, of course, the defendant, Machi Tobei. Only this defendant could have committed the crime? But how? It's quite simple. The circumstances of the crime scene make it clear. How so? Very well, I assume you have testimony to back up this claim. Please show the witness to the stand. Who's the witness? Oh, it's Emma. Your name and profession, please. Emma Sky. I'm a detective for the police department. I was on security detail at the concert forum that night. Emma seems tired somehow. Security at the concert, you say? Some security I was. Couldn't even stop a murder. Now, don't blame yourself. Things like this happen. No, things like this don't happen. I've made even bigger mistakes in my career, you know. I'm sure that makes her feel much better. I want to hear about these bigger mistakes. Yeah, the bigger mistakes the judge is probably referring to is probably the older games when he was trying to, he was basically trying to sentence a bunch of innocent people. In any case, because you were on security detail, the crime was quickly discovered. And were able to identify the killer. You may give the court your testimony, if you would. Describe the circumstances of that day and your discovery of the crime, please. Alright. Murderous circumstances. The night of the murder, I was on security backstage at Prosecutor Gavin's request. Only people involved at the concert in some way were allowed backstage. At the beginning of the third set, I heard shots. I went into the room filled with blaring rock music and found the body. I examined the scene and determined that only the defendant could have done it. It was lucky the detective was the first on the scene. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna say this. That testimony sucked. That was a terrible testimony. That really was. She's like, I was there, I walked in the room, and only the defendant could have done it. That's it? Like, there's no explanation, nothing. That sucks. That's a terrible testimony. But that door was the only way out of the room, right? Yeah, pretty much. Then I don't get it. How can they say that Machi did it? Looks like we need a bit more information. Very well. The defense may begin the cross-examination. The night of the murder, I was on security backstage at Prosecutor Gavin's request. The night of the murder was the night of the concert, yes? That's right. What was the detective doing on security detail, might I ask? If it was only a concert, my thoughts exactly. But orders are orders, even when they come from rock gods. Prosecutor Gavin? Yes, allow me to explain. I smelled something that day, you might say. The stench of conspiracy. That day at the concert hall. Conspiracy? Well, isn't it obvious? My keys, that whole morning, no, the whole day was ruined. Well, the thing is, if a prosecutor was there at the scene of a crime, they would not be brought in to prosecute the crime too, because they'd be too attached to the case. And they could also possibly be a suspect as well. And it's all because someone stole my keys. I couldn't ride my hog to the show, I couldn't open my guitar case. There he goes again. What, you don't have spare keys? Isn't it possible he simply misplaced them? Misplaced them? Misplaced items don't just wander into a murder victim's hand on their own. What's this? Prosecutor Gavin, if your keys were in the victim's hand, that makes you a prime suspect. Yeah, exactly. Love, slow acting, and new. Atroquinin is waiting for you. He's singing something. Does everything with this guy have to be so over the top? The killing happened in the middle of my concert. I was, like a sailor, adrift on a sea of sound. Anyway, I didn't want anything else stolen. So I put the detective with the most time on their hands on the task. I see. I can accept that. Well, I can't. What do you mean, time on their hands? Please, the testimony. The thing is, though, is, like, this would be very illegal. Like, you know, having, like, you know, a police officer, you know, do private security for you on your own time. Only people involved with the concert in some way were allowed backstage. We were let in, though. I didn't know about that. I certainly didn't invite you. I gave the Fraulein special permission to be there. I wanted to see her again. Oh boy, did you hear that? We're officially involved now. Gee, great. Some other hangers-on tried to get backstage, but I drove them off. So no other outsiders were there then. And then... at the beginning of the third set, I heard shots. I believe we were having a chat when we heard the shots. You were the one chatting. I was eating snackoos. Hey, no snacking in court. And you're sure the shots came from Lamoureux's room? Yes, absolutely. Hey, I'm the one being cross-examined here. Here, this'll keep you quiet. Thanks. So, Munch, how about it, Munch Emma? We were right, Munch there, hard to be mistaken about that, Munch. Please, either talk or eat. Not both at the same time. Right, so after that, me and Mr. Lawyer there opened the dressing room door. I went to the room filled with a blaring rock music and found the body. Rock. Blaring, yes. When you say rock, are you referring to perhaps... So, again, let's look at the map here. I guess it's not appearing on here, but, right above the door are those speakers. I remember there were speakers in the room. And those speakers basically broadcast the concert to the dressing room. And the whole purpose of that is so that basically musicians that are waiting in their dressing room, they know when the concert part ends, you know, and the next segment is ready, which is them, so they, you know, go through. So that's probably what was playing. That rock music was playing from the speaker that was above the door. To this rock and roll music that's so popular these days. That's right. When we went into the dressing room, music was blaring over the speaker on the wall. They piped sound from the stage into the backstage through speakers, yep. That way people in the back could hear when they're supposed to be on stage. Did it have to be so loud? You don't listen to the gaveters with your ears. You feel it with your entire body and soul. I always have that backstage monitors at full volume. When we walked into the room, the band was playing Guilty Love, I believe, making it easy to determine the time of the crime was. Now she put on glasses. If you could hear that music playing, then everyone on stage for that song has an alibi, including myself. Anyways, I closed off the scene and started my investigation. I examined the scene and determined that only the defendant could have done it. How could you know something like that? As I said, it was clear from the circumstances. Listen, we know there was only one exit from the room, that door. The small window only opened a tiny crack, and I was standing in front of that door. So how could the killer have fled the scene? Well, through the vent, that's probably what they did. There's only one possibility, the air vent. Oh no, is she gonna say that because Machi is small, that he could fit? Is that what she's basically saying? That's, the thing about that is that... I guess, technically, you could use that as evidence. You could say, oh, this person wouldn't be able to fit through here. But that's not direct evidence against somebody. That's not like... If that's her best that she has, that's garbage if that's her best. Well, that air vent was too small. Who could possibly... Exactly. There's certainly no way you could get through, nor me. The only one who could fit through was a child. A child. Remember, access to those rooms was limited. Only those involved with the concert were allowed. And of all the people involved with the concert, only one is small enough to be considered a child. The defendant. The pixie of the arpeggio fitted up towards the sky and disappeared from the scene of the crime. But that's just conjecture. Yeah, it is, really, when you think about it. It is. Apollo is right on this. Oh? There was no other way out of that room. Well, we might need to investigate that. You were there. You should know, Her Forehead. And there is another vital piece of evidence. Evidence? What? Marks were found in the air vent grill. Traces that it had recently been opened. Wait, what? And something else was found, quite clearly. The defendant Machi Tobei's fingerprints. Oh no, that's not good. What? What? Order, order, order. That air vent was the only way out of the room. But here's the thing about this. There's a massive contradiction here. And do you know what the massive contradiction here is? I'm already seeing it. Is they are basically saying that because Machi was small enough to fit through the vent, he did it and his fingerprints were found in the vent. Okay. Even if that is true, remember what they said earlier, that the .45 caliber is a massive revolver. And somebody that has to be experienced in shooting that thing is going to be the killer. And remember what he said, that if you're a small person, you can't fire that revolver. And if this Machi guy is like the size of a child, how the hell is he gonna fire that revolver? And on top of that, he's also blind. So he comes up behind this guy, shoots him twice, crawls through the vent, gets out, and then somehow gets back in the room, moves the body. When he moves the body somehow out of the room, brings it all the way to the concert stage, climbs all the way up there, puts the body there's massive holes in this story already. The defendant's fingerprints were found on the grill. Well, Her Forehead? What fairy tale does this suggest to you? Ugh. Only one could pass through that vent, that doorway to heaven. And that one is our pixie. Why are you looking at me, Apollo? Hey, I was out whooping it up in the audience. So this was his decisive evidence. Quite decisive. Indeed. I believe that's enough of that. The prosecution has a rather convincing case. The only way in and out of the crime scene was watched, making the defendant the only one who could possibly leave the scene. Simple and decisive. I believe we've heard enough to determine our verdict. No, we have not. Even if it wasn't in a hurry to even if I wasn't in a hurry to make a hospital visit, I'm sure the Chief Justice will appreciate the gesture. Unfortunately, we have no direct witnesses. Fortunately, this criminal left decisive evidence for us. That will have to be enough. It can't be over already. Very well, I believe this trial is finished. If the defense has no contradicting evidence, the prosecution has presented our proof clear and plain. If you have contradicting evidence, it better be clear and plain. Capallo, they got us on the ropes already. We better come up with something quick. I know. Think, what can get us out of this? The gun! We need evidence, or a witness that can prove Machi's innocent beyond the doubt. Without that, gulp. Mr. Justice, you have contradicting proof that can overturn the prosecution's case. If you do, you better tell us about it now. This is it. And it's so soon. If I mess this one up, it'll all be over. The court wants contradicting proof? The revolver. The defense is prepared to show contradicting evidence. This should be interesting. What sort of evidence? What's the gun? Show us evidence contradicting the prosecution's claims. This evidence does more than contradict. It flips the whole case on its head. Thank you for presenting evidence that is both clear and plain, as requested. Yes, clearly and plainly wrong. I'm afraid the only thing flipped on its head was you as a child, Mr. Justice. What? Okay, I'm gonna save here. This makes no sense right now. Literally, they said in the trial several times that somebody has to be experienced and a big person to be able to handle a gun like that, and like a child you know, somebody with the size of a child would be able to like fire a revolver like that. I guess that wasn't it. The only person who could have fled the scene was the defendant, and there was no witnesses either. There's only one way out of this. Evidence or a witness that can prove Machi's innocence beyond a doubt. Let's ask the defense once again. Do you have contradicting proof that can overturn the case? Nothing behind him there. These are the keys in the heart-shaped ring, and this guitar shape was the key to a guitar case. I could open a lock like that in 10 seconds easily. He should have given me a call, so he could slap handcuffs on you after you opened it. Handcuffs, 20 seconds tops. I'm glad she's on my side. Okay. You better tell us about it now. Okay. We're gonna call a witness. Prosecutor Gavin, you claim there was no witnesses to this crime. Are you absolutely sure? Absolutely. I'd swear if it on my career as a prosecutor. And on my million-seller hit song, Atraquin in My Love. There he goes again. That's too bad, because there was a witness. Oh, really now? But how did you come to possess knowledge of the prosecution clearly does not? Because I am the only one in the world who knows this. What's going on? I just talked to him now. He's alive. Mr. LeTousse, can you hear me? Cold, so cold. Witness. You're cold? Don't worry, you're going to be fine. Help is on the way. Can't see. Hang in there, Mr. LeTousse. Tell me, who was the witness? The witness is C. Ren. What? The victim said this before he died? Perhaps he did, and perhaps he did not. What do you mean by that? All we know is what her forehead says he said. It's no testimony, especially since it comes from the defense attorney himself. But it's the truth. He said it. I even told you about it. But apparently you ignored me completely. Also, Trucy is a witness to this as well, so she can back this up. It's my policy to fully investigate everything I deem relevant. Clearly this rookie lawyer thinks he can tell me how to do my job. That's enough. Mr. Justice, we need clear contradictory proof from you. This witness of yours, unknown to the prosecution. I hope you're right. Failure carries a stiff penalty. Perhaps, a stiffer penalty than usually is called for. There's no backing out now. Let's hear the name of your witness, Mr. Justice. Lameroy. Lameroy? Recall Mr. LeTousse's last words. The witness is C. Ren. The siren, aha. He meant, the siren. That's right, the siren of the ballad. Lameroy. Lameroy was only on stage for the second set. And she had access to the backstage area. She could have been a witness. I see. Well, Prosecutor Gavin, my claim still stands. There is no witness to this crime. Very well. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth then, shall we? We will now take a break from Detective Emma Sky's cross-examination. Please show Lameroy to the witness stand. Lameroy would say nothing the night of the murder. Not today, though. Today we'll drag this story out of her no matter what it is. It is my distinct honor to welcome the Siren of the Ballad to our courtroom. You are too kind. You can speak English. Yes, I can. Though I'm not very good. There is much I do not know. You speak so well. Have you spent time here before? Actually, I do not know how I came by my knowledge of your language. Yeah, she's already discredited herself as a witness. Nowhere I studied it. What does she mean? She doesn't know? I too fought to call her as a witness, but I did not. I had a reason, of course. What's that? Lameroy suffers from amnesia. What? Amnesia? Lameroy is not my true name. Yet I remember nothing of the time before I was given it. Nothing at the time before I started singing on stage. Whoa, she's even more mysterious than I thought. As lauded singer of Lameroy, she lives a good life. There are little difficulties for her thanks to her success. Yet, I did not wish to subject her to unnecessary stress. I see. I care surprisingly little about people's past. You have nothing to fear in this court, Lemeroy. Thank you. Yet there is something I do not understand. I am being called as a witness. What might I say? No one will tell me anything of what happened. Lemeroy, let me be frank. I did not want to ask you up here to testify. Yet that young gentleman with the wide forehead over there was adamant that you stand. Oh my. Congratulations, Apollo. You're the bad guy. Very well, now that you're here, please give us your testimony. If nothing else, the sound of your voice is welcome. What? Tell us what you saw the night of the crime. What I saw. As for what I saw nothing. That night, I was invited to sing on stage, and this I did. I did not return backstage after the second set. Then I was led by the police to Mr. Gavin's dressing room and told to wait there. That was where I learned that something had happened, but I wasn't told the details. I must say, you sound wonderful just testifying. I hope she was too distracted to hear what she was actually saying. There you have it, she saw nothing that night. Now we can only pray that the defense has the sense to admit defeat and refrain from detaining her here longer than need be. Wow, you just got better, Apollo. Way to go. Urgh. Very well, Mr. Justice. Keep it short and sweet. Lemeroy wouldn't talk to me the night of the crime. She must know something, and I've got to find out what. What I saw. As for what I saw nothing. But you must have seen something. Mr. LeTousse named you. Mr. LeTousse. How can I tell you what I don't know? Lemeroy, he said you were a witness with his dying words. I do not know what he meant to say, but that night I was invited to sing on stage, and this I did. It was a great concert. You heard me sing, thank you. I was hoping to get an autograph later, actually. Of course. Mr. Justice, this is a cross-examination. You're out of line. If anyone deserves an autograph here, it's me. On my gavel would be nice. Herr Judge. What's this? It's my autograph. Now keep this trial moving. What? Oh, my grandchild will be so happy. Apparently his grandson is a big fan. Let us continue, shall we? If you would, Lemeroy. Tell us, what you did after your stellar performance. I did not return backstage for the second set. You did not return backstage once. Where were you then? What were you doing? I was cleaning up on stage. There are many things I must do for a performance other than simply sing. And was Machi with you at the time? Unfortunately, I do not know where he was. So much for an alibi for Machi. Then I was led by the police to Mr. Gavin's dressing room and told to wait there. With Machi, correct? How is he then? He seemed as he always does, though I believe he was shocked by the news of Mr. LeTousse's death. Yet, he is not the type to show much emotion. Yes, he's given the police no end of headaches. He answers most questions with silence, and those glinting frames speak nothing. The questioning hasn't gotten very far. So, yeah, the thing about this is, what's weird about Ace Attorney is it's a combination of both American and Japanese law. And in America, you do not have to actually answer questions. You just tell the police, I want a lawyer, that's it. And the police cannot legally question you at that point. If they start legally questioning you after you say you want a lawyer, that is violating your rights. And if that actually happens, that can actually be brought up during trial. Now, Apollo could actually bring this up. He's probably not going to in the game, but he could bring this up and he could say that he was pleading silence and you were still questioning him. You were violating his rights. We sat there waiting. That was where I learned that something had happened, but I wasn't told the details. How was the incident explained to you? I was told nothing in detail, only that Mr. LeTousse died. Of course, investigations require some security. But Mr. LeTousse was my manager. I wanted to know more. I should have been told. Both Machi and I were besides ourselves with concern. Allow me to apologize, but please understand. Keeping you in the dark was as painful for me as it was for you. Yes, I understand. Think, what doesn't ring true about her testimony? It's hard to imagine Lemuroy lying. He might not be lying, but she's hiding something. What wouldn't she tell me the night of the murder? Remember, she said that she can't talk to me because I'm a lawyer. I saw nothing. That night I was invited on stage, and this I did. I did not return backstage for the second set. And I was led by the police to Mr. Gavin's dressing room and told to wait there. She's doing a different she's looking away when she says this. I was led to the... No one is allowed to speak about the investigation. Oh, this, the brooch. That's what it is. I'm sorry, Lemuroy, but I'm having trouble believing you. You remember this brooch, do you not? Why, that's Lemuroy's. She was wearing it for her song. Care to add that to the testimony, Prosecutor Gavin? What? This brooch was found after the murder took place. At the very scene of the crime. What? Lemuroy, how did your brooch get backstage if you did not go there yourself? And as Prosecutor Gavin has just told us, you had been wearing it during your performance that night. What is the meaning of this? Lemuroy, please explain. Lemuroy? She says English is quite difficult. That trick's not going to work here. Your forehead may be large, but you are a lawyer, truly. But you have missed one important fact. What now? In fact, at the time of the incident, I went backstage, but only for a moment. Well, she lied. She just discredited herself as a witness. What? So she's now refusing to speak English? Think back to the moment of the crime. You know whereof I speak. Is she really saying all that? What's she talking about, Apollo? Right when the incident occurred. Ah, is she talking about that? Watch this room for me. I have to call for backup. Right, understood. You want me to make sure no one comes in, right? Mr. LeTousse, can you hear me? Cold, so cold. Witness. You're cold, don't worry. You're gonna be fine, help is on the way. The witness is Siren. Siren? How can a witness, Siren witness anything? Yipes, Emma? What was that? What? Who's there? What's wrong? Emma, did you see anyone just now? Huh? No. I could have sworn I heard a door close. I looked into the room. Just a glance, mind you. So this was when your brooch dropped. There's more to this than just that. That explains that. It does. There was no other time I could have dropped it. But that's ridiculous! You only looked in for an instant, but you dropped your brooch? Her forehead. She has raised the possibility. The only thing that can counter that is evidence. So she looked in at the crime scene. Actually, I intended to go into the dressing room. I knew nothing of what had happened, of course. But that moment I opened the door, I heard a horrible voice. Her forehead shouting. Who's there, no doubt? A horrible voice indeed. I closed the door immediately. Well, that explains the brooch. Let's return to your testimony. That's too convenient. She's hiding something, she is. Lemuroy, you did look into the room though, right? Yes. Testify as to what you saw. Very well, though it was only the brightest of glimpses. When my performance was finished, I went backstage for just a moment. Oh, the ring is going. What did you see in that brief glimpse? I had only opened the door slightly when I heard that horrible voice. And shut the door. I've always wondered, her forehead. Does that voice of yours lack a volume knob? It's my cords of steel, man. Just back off. I saw nothing. The late Mr. LeTousse's body was behind a wall. A wall? Was there a wall there? Is what in English. A division, or partition, I believe. It was a large dressing room divided into two halves. And the murder took place in the inside half. Wait a second. If she peeked through the door, she would have been barely able to see the body. I guess that partition might have hidden the body. Okay. Is she smiling during that? Look at her eyes. Maybe there's a sign there. Oh, it's something with her eyes. Might be this here. He took a pause. I saw nothing. She has to have some kind of nervous twitch somewhere. That night I was invited to sing on stage, and this I did. There's nothing wrong, nothing off about that statement. But once she have seen us in the room, though. She's not saying anything. The late Mr. LeTousse's body, that's... I saw nothing. Is this it?
Gotcha!
The late Mr. LeTousse's body, you say. There is something off about her there. Yes. You know something more about Mr. LeTousse's death than you are saying. What? I could see you trying to not to remember, but the effort made you swallow. You can't fool my eyes. Oh, so that was it. She swallowed at that part because I noticed that her lips weren't moving when she said that. That's what I was focusing on. It is true. It was so terrible. After all, why did Mr. LeTousse have to be shot? One moment, Lemeroy. Yes. What was that you just said? Why did Mr. LeTousse have to be shot? Yes. She was hiding something. I knew it. Lemeroy, I'm afraid you haven't realized it, but your word just now contradicts your testimony. Eh? How could that be? Yes. It's this. To ensure the efficiency and secrecy of our investigation, the bearer is to hereby order to speak to no one outside the investigation concerning any details of the case. She knows that he's been shot. No one would... Only the killer or somebody present would know that. Take this. Lemeroy contradicted her own testimony, and I have the evidence to prove it.
Take that!
Tell me, Lemeroy, how did you know he had been shot? Eh? Well, Immediately following the incident, a gag order was placed in the scene. This is the document proving that. In your testimony, you told the court. No one told me anything about the incident. Furthermore, you testified that you had seen nothing. Yet you knew that Mr. LeTousse had been shot. How could you have known? Lemeroy, you aren't hiding something from this court, I hope. That sweat song of hers was sounding a little too sweet. Now I remember. Please, allow me to add to my testimony. Of course. All we want to know is the truth. She looks kind of pale, huh? She saw something, I know it. So, notice how Clavier isn't really objecting. He wants to hear this too. Even the victim said so. I saw bullet holes in the wall and knew Mr. LeTousse had been shot.
Hold it!
Only a glimpse, yet you knew they were bullet holes. Yes, I recognized them immediately. I've seen bullet holes before, you know. You have traveled the world as a singer. You must have snug in places far more dangerous than our country. I go wherever my voice is needed. Those places are many these days. That's really cool. I hope I get to travel like Lemeroy someday. I plan on recording my next album overseas. Their studios have a different sound, you know. Maybe I should go on Chords of Steel tour too. I saw bullet holes and I knew he had been shot. There's something off about this. I mean, she could make the argument that she saw the bullet holes from outside the room. I mean, a 45 would definitely have gone through the wall, definitely. But...
Objection!
Lamoureux, they call you the siren of the ballad. But lies are hardly becoming of such a creature. A put-down worthy of our prosecutor, Mr. Justice. Such put-downs are hardly becoming of you, Apollo. Stop polishing your forehead and start polishing your character, yeah? Come on, can't I be cool for once? Observe the diagram. Lamoureux, you looked in from the door just a moment. Correct? Yes, that is so. There were bullet holes in the room, yes. But they were in the wall. The door is on. Hey. You see, assuming you merely glanced into the room, you couldn't have seen those bullet holes. Lamoureux. Yes. I'm afraid the defense has raised a good point. It appears you have been holding back something. And I must tell you what it is that I saw. Yes. The happenings in this trial are being recorded, and I'm certain it will be on the news in Virginia. You understand your reputation is at stake. It falls to you to avoid tarnishing it. Personally speaking, I still believe that cross-examining her will yield us absolutely nothing. But she knew how Mr. LeTousse died, and he named her as a witness. You must have seen something, Lamoureux. Very well. Lamoureux, please continue your testimony. Very well, I shall. What I saw too. I was on my way from the stage to the backstage exit. There was something like a little window there. That's how I saw it. Now she's changing her testimony completely, and I remember that little window. That window you can't, is too small for anybody to climb through. Oh, wait. Wait a second. I think I figured it out. I think I figured out how the murder happened just now. The window is too... The window is right behind where Mr. LeTousse is. The window is too small for a person to crawl through, to get through. The ladder was probably put there before the murder actually happened. And somehow, Machi was somehow tricked into putting his fingerprints on the vent. I don't know how he was tricked on that, but he was somehow tricked into doing that. The killer shot Mr. LeTousse through the window, and even though the window is too small to climb through, they tossed the revolver in the room. That's what happened. They shot him through the window, and then they tossed the gun through the window. That's how the gun got in the room. The killer was behind the door. Was not in the room. They were outside the room when it happened. That's how it happened. There's something like a little window. That's how I saw it. There was 2 shots. I couldn't do anything to stop it. But it wasn't Machi. It was a grown person. I know it was. So you did witness the crime. And the killer was a grown person, you say? Ah, this is my first time hearing this, I assure you. Nice play, her forehead. Very well, Mr. Justice. You may begin your cross-examination. Great going, Apollo. You were right about Lamoureux. What's wrong? You don't look too happy. This whole thing smells fishy. That's what's wrong. She didn't name the person, just said grown man. It's weird. I was on my way from the stage to the backstage exit. So you were heading towards the dressing room. So she was claiming that now it's not Machi, that it was a grown man. But beforehand, she was doing nothing to help Machi. I don't think this grown man exists. That's what I think. I think she either knows the killer, or she did it herself. That's what I think. So you were heading towards the dressing room. Yes. So this is a little before she opened the dressing room door and dropped her brooch. About the same time Emma and I heard those shots. I was on my way back. There was something like a little window there. That's how I saw it. What exactly is something like a little window? Yes, well, window is the best word I know in English. I think this is how it is said, yes? You need not worry, Lamoureux. Your choice of words is impeccable. There is a small window in the dressing room in question. Perhaps the defense remembers this detail. That little window on the wall. Yeah, that one. Do not open. Is the window opened or closed from that picture? I can't tell if it's opened or closed. But that's basically, I think that's what happened is, if you look at it, he was shot in the back. That's where Mr. LeTousse was shot. But there's nowhere for the killer to hide. And if somebody shot him in the back, Mr. LeTousse would know that who shot him. He would be able to say. So, what I think happened is, there's one of two possibilities here. It's either Lamoureux shot him in the back from that window, or perhaps Lamoureux was in the room with Mr. LeTousse, and she saw Mr. LeTousse get shot in the back through the window. She panicked, and her brooch fell, and she ran out of the room. That's how it might have gotten there. That's what might have happened. I saw the crime from there. There was 2 shots. I couldn't do anything to stop it. You are certain you heard 2 shots fired? Yes, quite certain. I was on my way to the backstage exit. This was when I heard a faint sound, like a gunshot. Here's the thing is, in real life cases, in real life murder cases, when somebody is shot, oftentimes it's not one shot. It's oftentimes multiple shots. But here's the thing, witnesses typically are not asked about the amount of gunshots that they heard, unless the witness themselves brings that up. And the reason for that is because, when so many bullets are fired at somebody, typically people just panic, and they don't count stuff like that. They don't remember the amount of shots, just think it was a couple shots. They don't remember the exact name. So typically that's not something that's brought up, unless it's like, if it was 1 shot only, that might be brought up. But if it's like, you know, multiple shots, it's probably not going to be brought up. Wondering what it had been, I peered through the window. That is when I heard the second gunshot, much closer. And there were 2 bullet holes at that scene. Contradictions so far. It all happened on the other side of that window. There was nothing I could do. But it wasn't Machi. Then who was it? It wasn't Machi who shot. Are you sure? Yes, quite certain. Ahaha. It amuses me that you would question her testimony. It is testimony in your favor, isn't it my job to object? Yeah, Paulo, what were you thinking? Trucy, let's just listen to what Lamoureux has to say. Can you tell me how you were so sure? Yes, of course. You see? It was a grown person, I know it was. A grown person. That's a little vague. I am so sorry. My skill with your language is lacking, I know. Certainly you could at least see whether the shooter was male or female. It was a man, a young man. And you're sure of that? Yes. His voice was quite clear. Voice. Looking at this diagram, it seems the dressing room was quite cluttered. It does seem likely that you would have had a clear view of the shooter. As a singer, I rely more on my ears than my eyes. When I hear a voice, I do not forget it. That voice was the voice of a man. So you heard a voice, but wait. Couldn't that have been the victim, Mr. LeTousse? Absolutely not. Did I not just say that I do not forget a voice? It was Mr. LeTousse who spoke, I would have known. Indeed. So you were at the window, and you heard the shooter's voice, the voice of a young man. Apollo, this is a good testimony. That proves it wasn't Machi. Indeed. If this turns out to be true, it would cast this case in a considerably different light. What is the defense's opinion on this testimony? We save here. Oh wait, it is contradictory. It is. I just realized why. The reason her story makes no sense is because of the speakers. The speakers that are in the room. Remember, they played the concert. How would she have heard that? The speakers were really loud. Everyone said that. How would she have heard the other person? It's contradictory. It is, but what's so weird about this is helping our client. But even though this is helping our client, this isn't getting us to the truth. I think she's lying about this. She's just trying to cover herself. That's what it's about. Though it pains me to say this, there's something about Lamoureux's testimony that rings false. Bravo, her forehead. You're colder than I thought. I'm sure you remember what the problem is as well as I do, Gavin. As has been established. No grown man could pass through that air vent. He couldn't have fled the scene of the crime. But that means Lamoureux has to be lying. I know, and I know it's bad for our case, but I can't shut my eyes to this. Believe me, the idea was tempting. It is as her forehead says. Yet, this is not the only contradiction within her testimony. Yeah, the music. What? What's next? What's he talking about? Lamoureux. I understand why you would want to protect Machi. Yet remember, you are the siren of the ballad. And lies do not become such a creature. What does the prosecution mean? Apollo, what's he talking about? How come no one bats an eye when he says stuff like that? I recall the state of the crime scene quite well. The state of the room. Yes, and when the murder took place, that window was closed. I find it hard to believe you could hear a voice through it. Well, I guess that, but I'm more concerned with the music playing. What? But I'm sure. Lamoureux, I have nothing but the highest regard for your musical senses, but my opinion of you as a witness is somewhat lesser. But she's the only eyewitness we have. So you say, and the victim named her, the siren, as the witness. That's right. That's what Mr. LeTousse. We heard your claim. We even entertained the possibility, and it brought us to this. Her judge. Yes. The prosecution requested the witness be excused. Please. I'm afraid I must honor the prosecution's request. There is indeed a question of the witness's credibility. But if Lamoureux can't testify, then we don't have a chance of proving Machi's innocence. This cross-examination is over. Prosecutor Gavin, you may continue making your case. Danke, that means thank you in German. Now where were we? Yes, I would like to hear from Fraulein, a detective again. Wait, let me hear Lamoureux's testimony one last time. But the cross-examination is already over, until such a time as a need arises. This witness may leave the stand. I'm sorry, I could not be of more assistance. Your testimony was garbage. At last, back to the real trial. Ready, her forehead. I hope I didn't just miss my only chance. Fraulein Detective, how far had we gotten until we were so rudely interrupted? Don't ask me. I dislike saying the same thing twice. I never repeat a song for an encore. If you would, Miss Sky. I believe I was saying that the only way Mr. LeTousse's killer could have escaped was through that air vent on the ceiling. We had that mysterious magician, remember, that kept popping up. Maybe he had something to do with it. Yes. There was only one door in the room. And a witness was standing in front of it. That air vent isn't very big, see? Kind of limits the people who could possibly get through. I certainly would have a difficult time. You sure would, not that you would have been there in the first place, though. Remember, the whole backstage area was off limits to people not involved with the concert. The only one who meets the conditions for our killer is the defendant. A virtuoso performance, I couldn't have put it better myself. He does state a clear case. Though reading the report, something caught my eye. Oh, what's that? Circumstances of the defendant's arrest. The circumstances? Again? Hey, that's right, Apollo. Remember when we found Machi? That was bizarre. Yeah, how did he get up there? She's right. Why did Mr. LeTousse's body disappear from the room? And end up on top of that stage tower? Holding a guitar, no less. A perceptive observation, her judge. Thanks. It was kind of an accident, really. But you work in this job long enough. You get a nose for things. The judge sure seems pleased with himself. Very good, Fraulein Detective. Perhaps you can tie it all together for us. Why was the body moved? And how does that lead us to the killer? The missing body. I believe Machi stole the body because of some lyrics. He moved the body to match Lamoureux's song. No one in this country had a motive to kill the victim. And Machi practically left his signature at the scene. All this evidence clearly points to the defendant. It's too good. It's too good. It makes no sense. Lamoureux's song? Yes, the guitar's serenade. You noticed it's code too, did you not? It's code. All the events that day follow the lyrics to our song. The guitar serenade, sugar, sugar, oh that night in your embrace, when you stole away the keys my heart held on so tight. Pleasure, pleasure, but a fleeting melody. It wraps itself around me, and now through the air I fly. First the keys my heart held on so tightly were stolen. Whoa, whoa, burning on in my heart fire, burn my love away, all like a bullet of love, fire, take my life away, all away. Guitar, guitar, up together to the sky. Then Prosecutor Gavin's guitar burst into flames on stage. Mr. LeTousse's life was taken by a bullet. The rest hardly needs explanation. Guitar, guitar, up together to the sky. That's mad. It's like a story out of some fairy tale, but the thing is, this is not a motive. This is no motive. This isn't. How is this a motive? Like, they're claiming that he did it because of just the lyrics of the song? That makes no sense. This is not a motive. I admit I've forgotten about the song, but there it is now, waiting for me. The grand finale, as it were. Hey, you know I was the one who first noticed that. I've heard of jumping rope to songs and counting to songs. But killing? It's a wild world out there, Her Judge. Very well. We've heard one song and dance. Let's get on to the next, the cross-examination. I'm not so sure I'm going to be doing much singing. I believe Machi stole the body because of some lyrics. Who would steal a body just to match some lyrics? Exactly, this makes no sense. I don't believe it myself, but it can't just be a coincidence. It is as Fraulein Detective says. Let us begin with the first verse. If you would, Fraulein Detective. What? You want me to sing it? You are the witness, yeah? Or did you want me to sing? I warn you, my fee as a vocalist is not trivial. Fine, fine. Let's look at the first part of the lyrics, shall we? When you stole away the keys, my heart held on to so tight. Indeed, my favorite heart-shaped keyring was stolen that morning. Next, we go to the right page of the lyrics sheet, where we find burning on in my heart fire, burn my love away, all away. As we know, Prosecutor Gavin's guitar burst into flame. Like a bullet of love, fire, take my life away, all away. Mr. LeTousse's life was taken by a bullet. Bravo, Fraulein Detective. Your singing, it's not bad. Now for the finale. Guitar, guitar, up together to the sky. As it says in the lyrics, Mr. LeTousse was found with a guitar high in the sky over the stage. No series of coincidences could be so well conceived. He's right, scientifically speaking. What would Walkie have said? That concert was whack. It's hard to argue when she pours her heart into it like that. Anyway, the shooter. He moved the body to match Lamoureux's song. Does the prosecution have any idea why'd he do all this? You want my scientific opinion? No clue. But he clearly had a reason to go through all that trouble. Some deep reason. A deep reason. Not only did he steal my keys, he torched my guitar. Unforgivable acts even if he had a reason, and worse if he had none. The diva's complaints aside, I can't imagine someone doing this on just a whim. Fraulein Detective, I take offense at that description. Indeed, it does seem too well rehearsed, shall we say. Yes, this crime was planned for sure. No one in this country had a motive to kill the victim. Mr. LeTousse spoke English. He may have come to this country before. I looked into that, and I assure you... Oh? It was his first time in the country, it seems. The thing about that is it's so weird. It is possible, but it's like I said in the part before this. Mr. LeTousse speaks good English, yet he's never been in America. That makes no sense, really, when you think about it. I mean, it is possible to speak a language fluently and never be in the land where that, the land where that language comes from, or I should say, the land where that language is, the spoken language. But it's just weird. It's like, if I would speak fluent Japanese, but I'd never been to Japan. It's just weird. It's like you would speak a language fluently, but you'd never been to the country itself. I mean, like I said, it's possible you can learn a language to speak it fluently, but it's just weird that you would know how to speak the language so well, but you would never be in the country where that language is spoken. Apparently, he learned English on his own. Great. You see, no one here had a motive to kill him, and certainly not in such an elaborate fashion. It does seem difficult to imagine. Unless our famous prosecutor did it as a publicity stunt. Well, what did you just say? Prosecutor Gavin, you did this to promote your song? Of course not, and I'm quite dismayed by the ludicrous nature of her claim. Why would I need promotion? Everyone already listens to my music. They're even in my textbook at school, and I'd never heard of them. What does that say about me? I was just kidding. Don't get all worked up, Glitter Boy. And Machi practically left his signature at the scene. What do you mean by his signature? The bullet holes in the wall, of course. The bullet holes? The revolver was fired twice. One shot missed and left a hole in the wall. And that means what exactly? That dressing room isn't exactly spacious. Picture the shooter facing off with the victim in there. They can't have been more than 5 feet apart. It would be difficult, almost impossible, to miss at that range. Difficult to miss, you say? Very, very. Assuming the shooter could properly aim. No, you can't be serious. Machi, he can't see. That's why he missed? It's the only explanation that makes sense. He used sound and other senses to fire the gun. Poorly. That reminds me. The monitor in that room was blaring at the time, yeah? Hardly ideal conditions for tracking by sound. A blind shooter. No wonder he missed. I knew those bullet holes would come back to haunt me. Think, Justice, what do I do now? Raise an objection, the gun. Sure, there were bullet holes left in the wall. But that doesn't prove the shooter couldn't see. Oh, how so? Well, there could have been a struggle with the victim. That's certainly possible. And it might have been the revolver's fault. The revolver? The revolver was a very large caliber, correct? If the shooter wasn't used to firing such a large weapon, why, it could dislocate their shoulder. Machi's the size of a child. This literally throws the entire case upside down. Exactly. The defendant, Machi Tobe, is, as you can see, tiny. It's not so hard to picture him firing the gun and missing entirely. The kickback alone would throw off his aim. A convincing argument, to be sure. Take that, smug prosecution. I think we just made it look bad for ourselves. Apollo? Huh? What? That bit about Machi being tiny, and the gun throwing off his aim. Aren't you kind of, admitting that he did it? Yeah, oh. It does not matter why he missed. What matters is that the shooter was, without a doubt, the defendant. Even the defense seems to agree on that point. Ugh. Ripes, I really put my foot into it this time. But let's get the facts of the matter on the record. If you would, Fraulein Detective. Very well. The witness will add this to her testimony. Right. From the state of the crime scene, I conclude the shooter was blind.
Hold it!
You can't say he was blind just because of those bullet holes in the wall. I think I've proven that. I wouldn't call it proof, per se. Huh? You've merely raised a possibility. Fraulein Detective has made a most logical conjecture based upon the evidence. Of course, there is more evidence than just bullet holes. The defendant was the only one who could have escaped through the air vent. But wait, if he was blind, how would he know about the air vent in the first place? Ah, a very good point. Well, Fraulein Detective, if you would care to explain. He certainly seems so sure of himself. Recall the crime scene if you would. There was a stepladder below the air vent. As it happens, maintenance was scheduled for that day. Custodial staff was around checking all the air vents. I don't believe it. Everyone backstage was told about the maintenance, including Machi Tobe. He would have known that there would be a way out at the top of that stepladder. But that's... Why is this the first time I'm hearing about this? You could have figured it out for yourself. You only need to consider what that stepladder was doing there. Looks like the defense's objection has been squished by a stepladder. Well, her forehead? Out of ammunition, perhaps? I've never seen Prosecutor Gavin so aggressive. Maybe he's caught the scent of blood. Apollo, don't you have something? Anything. You know what we need? We need something to prove the killer could see. That'll put him in his place. Proving the shooter was sighted would do it. That would take down one of the central points. Do you have any evidence that they can prove that, though? What if the killer was the one who was trying to write something there, but Mr. LeTousse scribbled it out because he was still alive? I wonder. It says save here to be certain, but... Fine, I accept the prosecution's challenge. As I knew you would, her forehead. What exactly am I up against here? The prosecution is saying the shooter missed because he couldn't see. Therefore, Machi, who's blind, did it. The defense will please present their evidence. Evidence that overturns the prosecution's claim that the shooter couldn't see. This is that evidence. The photograph of the crime scene? I don't care much for the smirk on Prosecutor Gavin's face, but this is no time to think twice. Time to press on. Yes, Your Honor, the crime scene. There is something in here that decisively contradicts the prosecution's point. Then perhaps you best show us this something. Get your finger out of the breeze and put it up to good use, yeah? Clavier is probably going to claim that it was the victim who wrote that. Very well, show us what you're talking about, Mr. Justice. The contradiction at the scene of the crime is... this. The contradiction is right here. The smeared bloodstains? I thought it was just my blurry vision, but it really was blurry. The way the victim's hand is raised above his head. Much like a gesture I've seen many times in this court. It's almost as if he wrote something. I get it. At least I think I get it. Get what, Fraulein? When Mr. LeTousse was shot, he tried to write something. And what would he write but the shooter's name? And what would he write in it but his own blood? Pretty good, huh? Thanks for making my point for me. Yes, in fact, that's what I think happened here. That does seem to be a distinct possibility. The victim wrote the killer's name. It's certainly a logical conclusion. Drat, I just wish it wasn't all rubbed out like that. Of course it's rubbed out. Why, if I were a killer... I certainly wouldn't want to leave my own name behind. Neither would I. Now they look stupid. No one has anything else to say? About what? So the prosecution accepts this. You agree this was the victim making an attempt to record the name of the killer. And that the killer tried to rub the name out. What's your point? What's my point? Let me ask you this. How did the killer know the victim was writing their name? Well, Mr. LeTousse was writing something in blood, once the killer saw what it was. Wait. Oh my god, this courtroom was full of idiots. Once he saw what it was, but what did you just testify about the shooter? I said they were blind. Ah! Yet the crime scene itself contradicts that. The killer had to have been able to see. Why would they rub out the name in blood otherwise? May I remind the court that the defendant Machi Tobei is blind. He couldn't have been the shooter. Impossible! Order, order, order! Prosecutor Gavin, please explain to me what all this means. I mean, looking at this photo, it seems quite clear that the shooter could see. Yet up until now, it seems I owe the court an apology. The Gaviners are a band with law enforcement ties, yet a murder occurred. During our concert, apparently this caused some confusion over jurisdiction. As a result, some reports were not followed in an entirely timely manner. What? I am not sure I like the vibe I'm getting here. Hey Apollo, look at him. Why is Mr. Gavin all relaxed and smiling like that? Like he knows something we don't. And that he's about to tell us. I've got an idea. Let's rock. With these documents, but before that, I have a question for the Fraulein detective, if I may. What? Tell me. Why did you think that Machi Tobei is blind? Huh? What did he say? What are you saying? Of course he's blind. Of course? He's the blind pianist, right? So he's... Doesn't Lamoureux lead him around by the hand all the time? No way. He left Lamoureux's side, right? He did, I remember that. He left Lamoureux. I have a report here on the defendant Machi Tobei. According to this, Machi Tobei can see perfectly well. What? His blindness was merely a publicity ploy by those clever Borginians. He can see quite well. But you said... What did I say exactly? Her forehead, not once in this course of this trial have I claimed the defendant was blind. The only one who did was Fraulein Detective. But that's a significant fact, yes. Consider Machi Tobei sees, and he was the only one who could have fled through the air vent. I see no problems with this. But what about the bullet holes in the wall? Yes, the bullet holes. I believe her forehead neatly explained those for us. He didn't miss because he couldn't see. It was the kickback from the .45 caliber revolver. A simple accident, in other words. Ugh. How's that? I'm afraid your objection has just flown off for brighter skies. Ugh. This is where the real fun begins, her forehead. Yarg. I knew you didn't have what it took. You jerk. Just what was I in here for? Comic relief? Yeah, apologize. Oh, sorry. That's no way to apologize. He's angered, the Trucy now, look out. If we can please end this bickering, now. Whatever, I'm not leaving. I can't leave like this. I'll come up with some clue to solving this case if it kills me. But your testimony's already given us enough to convict the defendant. Don't say that. Haha. Aha, what? This blood stain. The criminal tried to wipe it off, right? That seems to be what happened, yes. We might be able to find out what was really written here. Really? You can do that. That's right. With this. It's called luminol. Maybe you know of it. Okay, yeah, it's a chemical that reacts to blood. So here's the thing is, when blood is wiped, so it is luminol. When blood is wiped, it's whenever you ever watch those detective shows when, like, you know, somebody basically is killed and the killer wipes away all the blood and then the police, like, spray that chemical around and then you see it, like, in blue light up? That's pretty much what luminol is. So even if it's wiped off, we're gonna be able to see the name. Ah, yes. Have we done those tests yet? But here's what I'm scared of. This is what I'm scared of, is I'm scared that this is going to, I'm scared this is going to say Machi. That's what I'm scared of. Because what might have happened is that Mr. LeTousse, remember when we walked into the room, Mr. LeTousse said nothing when we walked in the room. So we thought he was dead, and then it was like a few seconds later he started talking. So what might have happened is the killer might have shot Mr. LeTousse and might have but that contradicts what I was saying earlier with the murder, that the killer was in the room. But if the killer was in the room, if he didn't shoot him through the window, like I said earlier, if he actually was in the room, the killer might have shot Mr. LeTousse, thinking that Mr. LeTousse was dead, then fled from the room, somehow getting out, whether it was through the vent or some other way, and might have written the killer's name on there to frame the killer. Mr. LeTousse might have, regained some consciousness, seeing what's going on, and tried to scribble it out. That's what might have happened. Yes, have we done those tests yet? As if I'm going to tell you. The blood stains covered a section of the carpet. In order to perform a blood test, that section was removed and submitted. Perhaps we should request it here in court now. Right, go for it, Apollo. I have to do the test? You just have to spray the luminol on it. Simple. I'm scared it's gonna say Machi. Chemical that reacts to blood. I've heard of this somewhere. Yes, I believe an analysis is called for. Have it. So, giving the defense the thing to do the analysis, no. This would never happen in court. And first of all, you would not be doing the analysis in court. That would not be happening. You would have to have the analysis done before court, and you would have to have, you would have to have it peer-reviewed, documented that it was done. You don't just do it in the middle of court and let the defense do it. No, this would never be used as evidence. Right, ready? It's easy as pie. Just press X to spray an area. Here, give it a try. The eyes of the entire court are focused on me. Apollo, your hand's shaking. Let's do this. Wow, it really works. This must be the power of science. What does that say? It says IPXX314206. That's a weird number. Is that the killer's name? No, it's something else. What could that be? IP? Maybe it is. If the killer was a robot? Aha, I have it. So what is it? I thought those letters IPXX looked familiar. This is an Interpol ID number. Interpol is, for people that don't know what Interpol is basically like an international world police. That's what it is. Interpol is responsible for bringing people to justice who have basically fled overseas into other countries. That's what Interpol is in charge of. I can't really think of any video games where you've seen Interpol. There might have been one, but I do know if anybody has seen the Hitman movie, not the 2015 one, that was garbage. If anyone has seen the Hitman 2007 movie, the police that are after Agent 47 in the movie are Interpol. They're British cops, but they're part of Interpol. That's why they're in Russia looking for Agent 47. This is an Interpol ID number. Interpol, you mean the International Police Agency? Yep, got it. Yes, most are undercover agents working to solve international crimes. But why would he write that number? Why would Mr. LeTousse even know a number like that? Unless he was a witness or an undercover agent. Good show, Fraulein Detective. Rock on. Eh? Your Honor, we can verify this number immediately. Darian, are you there? Come up to the witness stand. Darian, you heard what we need. Go check into this Interpol ID number. Sure thing. Give me 30 minutes. No, give me 27. I'm not sure what to think of all this. The prosecution's case is airtight, so it seems. Yeah, this number is really that of an Interpol agent. Oh, wait, I know. What if Machi Tobei's really an undercover Interpol agent? That's weird. That would be a possibility. A possibility, yes. And one that would mark him as the killer for certain. Why did Mr. LeTousse know an Interpol ID number? Yeah, that is weird. That's what I want to know. Well, we have some time while we await Darian's report. Let's work on unraveling another mystery, shall we? A curious mystery concerning Machi Tobei. What are you talking about? Fraulein Detective, please accept my apologies. I received word that the defendant could, in fact, see just before the trial began. It seems too much of a bother to tell you. You had me until that last bit. Does this not raise a rather straightforward question? Well, sure. Why did Machi, pretend he couldn't see? Exactly. It makes little sense. What do you think, her forehead? Huh? Me? Machi Tobei pretended he was blind. Do you know why? How could he know? Wait, Prosecutor Gavin knows why, doesn't he? He's known from the start of the trial. He's been leading us on the whole time. Something wrong? You think perhaps this is all some kind of game? No, at the moment I heard that report, I knew why. I suppose people who have sold over 1 million records really are something else. What does that have to do with anything? There was a reason why Machi Tobe pretended to be blind, but it wasn't for his own sake. Getting the picture now? It wasn't for himself? Well, Mr. Justice, can you present evidence to show us why the defendant had to feign blindness? The murder? I'm a bit, but it wasn't for his own sake. It was for Lamoureux. It was for Lamoureux. Machi had no reason to pretend he couldn't see. Which means, no, it couldn't be. Good show, her forehead. It seems you thought of something. Why can't I figure these things out on my own? I hate having to take my clues from this guy. Very well, look at this. This is why he was pretending he couldn't see. That is Lamoureux. Lamoureux and Machi Tobe. Recall their relationship. In particular, their unique arrangement over the years before visiting our country. Lamoureux and her pianist. They would always walk together, she leading him by the hand. Even when they got on stage, she would lead him to the piano. She would walk all the way over there with him. That's right, because he was blind. She led him at all times, never letting him go. All times. Yet, we have just learned something that makes their arrangement peculiar indeed. Machi could see. Why did they have to keep this act up the whole time? Well, wasn't it part of their performance? I think there's a simpler explanation. Machi did not need to be led by the hand at all. That can only mean one thing. Really? Really, it was all the other way around. The one who needed to be led by the hand was Lamoureux. What's this? So you mean to say that Lamoureux she's... Yes, Your Honor. Lamoureux is blind. Lamoureux is really blind? What? Order! This is crazy, Prosecutor Gavin. Is it now? Please shed some light, sanity on this madness. The defense has made an outrageous claim. Sightseeing music, the only thing outrageous I see about the defense is his vast forehead. Yet I see it not as a vast and vain this time. He's quite correct. But that makes no sense. Yeah, wasn't she supposed to be the landscape painter in sound or something? Well, since we have her here, why not ask Lamoureux herself? I believe she's still in the witness waiting room. Apollo, what does this mean for a case? It means she couldn't have seen the killer through that window, if that's true. Don't ask me, I had no idea she couldn't see. I hadn't even imagined it until now. Bailiff, bring in Lamoureux. Lamoureux, it pains me deeply to call you before us again in this way, and yet I must. Please do not be concerned on my behalf. Those eyes. She really can't see, really. It is true. How funny it is that a tiny lie born in the Virginian countryside would one day grow to entangle the entire world. So you are, yes, as I mentioned before. I have no memory of the time before I became Lamoureux. Note, too, that my memories begin in the darkness. The word light has no meaning for Lamoureux. I see. You may recall me saying something towards the beginning of this trial, her forehead. What's that? I believe I said it was unfortunate this crime had no direct witnesses. Ah. Now, Lamoureux, I must ask you to stand once more. Will you testify to the court about your eyes? Of course. It was never my intent to deceive any of you. May I begin, Your Honor? Yes, of course. Though I admit I'm a little lost here. I think we're all a little bit lost here, Your Honor. I have no memory of the light. I debuted in a world of darkness and sound. My producer came up with my PR line before he knew this. So silly as it may sound, I had to pretend I could see. Everyone on my staff knew, of course, but no others. But there's one thing I don't understand. There's a contradiction here. And the contradiction is this. Why did Mr. LeTousse name her as a witness if she can't see? That makes no sense, unless he's talking about a different siren. But this is a murder trial. I apologize, it was part of my contract, you see. It was to keep my blindness a secret no matter what. Music is everything for me. I never imagined something like this would. She told us the truth in the beginning. When she said she saw nothing. Very well. Does the defense have anything to add? I like to cross-examine. But what is there left to ask? There was one thing in her testimony that bothered me. Perhaps it is best we let you get it out of your system. Someday you'll come to understand the importance of thinking for yourself. Very well, the defense may proceed. However, be aware this court will not tolerate any question deemed too stressful to the witness. Okay, there was only one part that bothered me. Just let me ask about that and I'll be happy. What part bothered him? I have no memory of the light. I debuted in a world of darkness and sound. My producer came up with my PR line before he knew this. So silly as it may sound, I had to pretend I could see. Everyone on my staff knew, of course, but no others. I think that one might be it. She closed her eyes. So, you don't know why you went blind? I do not. I may have been born this way, in fact. It's fruitless to attempt to pry into her past, and I might add it's a delicate subject. I'm not sure we can reasonably expect Mr. Justice to do anything delicately. Hey, why I oughta take a deep breath and calm down. What am I now is all that I have. Is enough, I think. I debuted in a world of darkness and sound. Weren't you nervous to hit the stage in your condition? Well, the thing is, though, is, yeah. No, not at all, surprisingly. It felt natural singing in front of everyone. It's not something just anyone can do. She has talent, that much is quite clear. You might even say she is beloved by the gods of music. Even without light, I live perfectly happy in my world of sound. If that is a talent, as you say, then I thank the gods responsible. What about your PR motto? My producer came up with my PR line before he knew this. Perhaps your music reminded him of the Borginian scenery. No, it was quite the opposite. The opposite. According to my producer, my music had a certain global quality. Global. Music, multicultural, if you will. Hard to pin one region. When people listen to it, they picture the country closest to their hearts, which is why my music has reached so many. What a lovely story. It sounds like this producer might have known what he was doing after all. My songs are nothing more than a white canvas. To me, the real landscape painters are the listeners. When I think of that, I do not mind how I am represented to the world so much. Yet one thing quickly led to another. Now listen, the country that she is from is called Borginia. That's the country that she is from. Borginia is not a real country, but Borginia is probably a reference to the Borgias. That's what it probably is. The Borgias were actually a family that actually ruled large parts of Renaissance Italy. They're also the antagonist in the Assassin's Creed games. The Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, they are the antagonists in that one. That's where most people know, a lot of people I would say know the Borgias from that, and also the TV show The Borgias. But the Borgias, they tried to unify Italy, but they were a very corrupt family. There was a lot of conspiracy with them, a lot of lies, a lot of deceit. That's what I think, like, for example, Rodrigo Borgia actually became the Pope, and Rodrigo Borgia was, like, the only Pope that had a son, because the popes cannot have a wife. They cannot be in a relationship, and I think Rodrigo had a son, who was Cesare, before he was actually Pope. But it's still, like I said, that family, there's a lot of secrecy with that family, a lot of conspiracies, and that's what I personally think about this. I think it's a reference to all the conspiracies as Borginia country, all the lies and all the deceit. So silly as it may sound, I had to pretend I could see. Was that to protect your image as the landscape painter in sound? That does not matter so much to me, really. But the label is quite concerned about it, I think. A landscape painter who can't see. That's like a pianist who can't play, huh? I'm not sure you can compare your father to Lamoureux. The world of commercial music is filled with these little white lies. Nothing is sacred when it comes to publicity. Everyone on my staff knew, of course, but no others. When you say your staff, do you include Mr. LeTousse? Of course, he was my manager. So he knew. And that's what's been bugging me. Something the matter, Mr. Justice. Oh, I know what's off here. It's about Mr. LeTousse, Mr. LeTousse saying that she was the witness, but he knew that she was blind. I believe I know what is bothering our young defense attorney. You are thinking of when you discovered the body, yes. Is he right, Apollo? Yes, I was. There. He's alive. Mr. LeTousse, can you hear me? Cold. So cold. Witness. You're cold. Don't worry, you're gonna be fine. Help is on the way. Can't see. Hang in there, Mr. LeTousse. Tell me. Can't see. Tell me, who was the witness? The witness is Siren. When he says can't see, Mr. LeTousse told me to ask the witness, and he named you. Why would he do that? He knew you were blind. I don't know. Tisk. What did I just say? You need to learn to think for yourself. Meaning what? There is no mystery here if you recall everything he said. Think of his last words once more. The witness. Siren. We've heard them many times along with a little play acting by our defense. I remember them well myself, but that statement is not to what I refer. I mean what he said before that. Before? What came before that? Ah! That's right. He tried to tell you. When he said can't see, he wasn't talking to himself. He was talking with the witness. I see. Too bad the defense did not. Well, I saw it. Well, her forehead? Try relaxing and looking at the facts first next time. Order. Recall Lamoureux's earlier testimony. I was on my way from the stage to the backstage exit. There were 2 shots. I couldn't do anything to stop it. But she couldn't have heard those gunshots. I thought we proved that. That is not the most important point here. The moment he was shot, Mr. LeTousse witnessed her through that window. Why else would he have named her as the witness? Ah. But I really did hear them. 2 gunshots, and the man's voice. Unfortunately, such a thing was impossible. The window was closed. We have already run a simulation, of course. But it was so clear. I heard that voice. If I heard that voice again, I would know it in an instant. Your Honor. What is it, bailiff? Can't you see we're in session here? We have the results back from the investigation. The investigation? Ah, the Interpol number that Mr. LeTousse left us. Well, let's hear it. We will continue this cross-examination afterwards. Detective Crescent, your report, please. I asked Interpol about that number. I'm sure you'll find their answer intriguing. Quick work as always, Darian. Well, tell us about, the number. Is the defendant a secret agent? IPXX314206. The agent registered under this number was Romain LeTousse. What? Our undercover Interpol agent was Mr. LeTousse himself. He was apparently in the middle of an operation. So when he wrote those letters, he was trying to tell us his own identity. and a cautious killer tried to wipe them away. Mr. LeTousse was an undercover Interpol agent, so him being Lamoureux's manager was just a cover, most likely. What was he investigating? There's one other important detail I found. Well, out with it. It concerns that .45 caliber revolver, the murder weapon. Apparently belonged to Romain LeTousse. He had an Interpol permit to carry firearms. I knew it was a police gun. And the registration number on the revolver matched. So the victim was killed with his own weapon. Which makes sense. It's hard to imagine someone who was an Interpol agent with such a large revolver. The victim was an Interpol agent or an undercover OP. I wonder how that ties in everything. It's got to tie in somehow, you'd think. Yeah, somehow. Thanks for looking into that for us, Detective Crescent. It's a great help. Oh, no problem at all, Your Honor. I'll be heading out. She heard his voice. Wait. That's what I was thinking. Lamoureux, something matter? She recognizes Darian's voice. That's what I think it is. That voice just now. Darian. Mr. Darian, is it? It was him. I am sure of it. It was him? You aren't saying that voice I heard talking to Mr. LeTousse. When I heard the gunshots fired, it was him. It was Mr. Darian. I knew it. I knew it. The second I heard that hold it, I knew that she was gonna call him out. Is this some kind of a joke? What? No way. The courtroom fell into such a chaotic state the trial had to be suspended temporarily. I'd never seen that happen before. Of course, it's not every day that you get an accusation like that one. Lamoureux fingering Darian Crescent. Not only is he a guitarist, he's a detective. Could it really have been his voice Lamoureux heard? Things were changing fast, and frankly, I wasn't sure I could keep up with it. Hey, no whipping out now, Apollo. Ooh, it's okay. To be continued here. This trial is getting crazy. There's a lot of things that just aren't adding up about this trial. There's just things that just make no sense here. But I guess we will wrap this up here, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think of this. Am I pronouncing Lamoureux's name correctly? I think I might have been doing it wrong. I think there was a few comments telling me in the last part I was saying it was wrong. But let me know what you guys think. If you guys enjoyed this part, do drop a like. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.